She looked me dead in the eye, her lip curled in a sneer, and called me the weak link. The reason her department was failing. For a year, she made my life a living hell. A year later, I looked her dead in the eye as 2 police officers walked her out of our workplace in handcuffs, and I gave her a little wink. The difference was, she was lying. I wasn't the weak link. I was the one who unraveled the entire web of lies and theft she'd built, and I was about to watch it all come crashing down around her. If you have ever felt the sweet, sweet taste of vindication, or if you know what it's like to be underestimated by the absolute wrong person, then you are in the right place. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you are not going to want to miss a single second of this. Like this video, and let's dive into a story where justice isn't just served, it's meticulously crafted and delivered ice cold. This all started years ago, right after I graduated high school. I was a typical kid, trying to scrape together some cash to support myself through college. I landed a job at one of those big box pet stores, which, for a guy like me, was a dream gig. I wasn't just there to punch a clock, I was genuinely passionate about animals. My assignment was the best department in the whole store: fish, aquariums, reptiles, and birds. It was a little ecosystem of its own, and I was excited to be a part of it. The store manager, a guy we'll call Kurt, was the kind of boss you hope for. He was an old-school, no-nonsense guy. His philosophy was simple: show up, work hard, go home. He didn't play favorites. He didn't micromanage, and he treated everyone with a baseline of respect. As long as you did your job, you were golden in his book. He created an environment where you wanted to work hard. But while Kurt was the king of the entire store, my world, my day-to-day reality, was ruled by a much crueler monarch. My immediate department manager. Let's call her Stephanie. Now, how to describe Stephanie? Imagine the foulest mood you've ever been in. Give it a permanent residency in a human body. Add a lazy disposition, a towering ego, and a prominent snaggletooth that seemed to jut out whenever she was being particularly nasty. That was Stephanie. She was this large, imposing woman who moved through the aisles with the lethargic entitlement of a queen who hates her own kingdom. And she and I, we got off on the wrong foot from day one. See, I'd been keeping and breeding snakes as a serious hobby for the last 5 years. I knew my stuff. I understood reptile husbandry, lighting requirements, humidity, and the subtle signs of a healthy or sick animal. Stephanie, on the other hand, was a fish person. Reptiles were just the noisy, scaly things on the other side of her department. On my 3rd day, a customer was looking at a ball python setup. Stephanie waltzed over to help and started recommending a heat rock, something any reptile keeper worth their salt knows can cause horrific thermal burns. I politely waited for her to finish and then gently corrected her, suggesting an under-tank heater regulated by a thermostat. I explained the science behind it to the customer, who was grateful for the correct information and bought the whole setup. I thought I'd done a good thing. I'd prevented an animal from getting hurt and made a good sale for the store. I was wrong. I hadn't helped. I had committed the ultimate sin. I had shown Stephanie up. I had revealed, in front of a customer, that a brand new, 18-year-old kid knew more about her own department than she did. Her ego, a fragile and bloated thing, couldn't handle it. A switch flipped. From that moment on, I was her personal project. Not to train, but to break. My days took on a miserable routine. While other employees, even newer ones, were put on the sales floor to interact with customers and learn the ropes, I was assigned to the one task everyone dreaded: cleaning the feeder goldfish tanks. If you've never had the pleasure, let me paint a picture for you. It's a thankless, Sisyphean task. You spend hours, elbow deep in cold, slimy, foul-smelling water, scooping out dead fish and scrubbing algae off glass, only for it to be disgusting again the next day. It was my permanent station. Every single day I worked. That was my job. While I was scraping away, I could hear her on the sales floor. If a customer had a question about a gecko or a tortoise, she would give them a half-baked, usually incorrect answer. If I tried to step in, she would cut me off with a sharp, "I've got this," and give me a look that could curdle milk. The verbal jabs became a daily occurrence. She'd say them just loud enough for other coworkers to hear, designed for maximum humiliation. "Get it together," she'd hiss as she walked past me. "You're the weak link in my team. Do you know that? You are the reason I'm having problems in this department." My heart would pound in my chest, a hot flush of anger and shame creeping up my neck. What could I do? I was an 18-year-old kid. She was the manager. Complaining felt like a fast track to getting fired. So I did what most people in that situation do. I kept my head down. I scrubbed the tanks. I took the abuse. And I let a quiet, simmering resentment build, drop by drop, day by miserable day. This went on for about a year. A full year of being undervalued, insulted, and relegated to the worst jobs in the store. Then, something changed. Kurt called a store-wide meeting. The news wasn't good. Hours were being cut across the board. When I asked Kurt about it, he gave me a tired look and said our department, Stephanie's department, was hemorrhaging money. A deadly combination of shockingly low sales and an unusually high amount of broken or damaged merchandise. This baffled me. We were always busy. How could our sales be low? And what was all this broken merchandise? I didn't think much of it at first. I just tightened my belt and dealt with the 25% pay cut, just like everyone else. But around the same time, a few of my coworkers and I started noticing irregularities. Strange patterns in Stephanie's behavior. For a woman who was famously lazy and allergic to customer service, she had suddenly developed a very keen, very specific interest in certain customers. These weren't just any customers. They were her customers. When one of them would walk in, Stephanie's entire demeanor would change. The sour, bored scowl would vanish, replaced by a sugary, fake smile. She'd rush to their side, insisting on helping them personally. "Oh, you guys go handle the inventory in the back," she'd say to me and the others, shooing us away like flies. She wanted these customers all to herself. The first piece of the puzzle fell into place one evening. A friendly customer, one of hers, came in and was chatting with me while waiting for Stephanie. He mentioned offhand how nice she was, and how the baby corn snake he bought from her was doing great. I froze. "Bought from her?" I asked. "Yeah," he said, oblivious. "She breeds them at her house. Her mice are great for feeding too, much cheaper than the frozen ones here." My blood ran cold. The store had two massive, ironclad corporate policies. One, we did not sell live feeder animals, especially mice or rats, for ethical reasons. Two, we worked closely with local animal shelters and vehemently condemned backyard breeding. Our company donated time and money to rescue organizations. And here was Stephanie, a manager, using our store as her own personal marketplace to sell animals she was breeding at home, directly competing with our business and spitting on our corporate ethics. She wasn't just breeding mice. We soon found out she was breeding everything. Her dogs, her turtles, you name it. She was building a client list from the people who walked through our doors, undercutting the very store that paid her salary. It was infuriating. She was taking business from the store, which explained some of the low sales, but it didn't feel big enough. It didn't explain the massive losses Kurt was talking about. It didn't explain why a whole department's hours had to be slashed. This was bad, but there was a bigger piece of the puzzle missing. My gut told me there was something more happening, something much, much worse, and I decided I was going to find out what it was. I started watching her. Not casually, but with intent. I became a ghost in my own department, observing her every move from behind aquarium displays and stacks of bird cages. For someone so lazy, she put on a masterclass performance for her customers. She'd follow them around, laughing and chatting, helping them pick out supplies, and that's when I saw it. The key. One evening, one of her regulars came in, a guy who was setting up a huge, expensive saltwater aquarium. I watched as Stephanie personally escorted him through the aisles. She loaded up his cart. I'm talking top-of-the-line gear. A protein skimmer worth hundreds of dollars. High-end LED lighting. Expensive, decorative live rock and coral pieces. The cart was overflowing. My heart started to pound. This was it. I grabbed a notepad and a pen from the fish testing station and shadowed them from a distance, peering through the shelving. Every single item she picked up and placed in that cart, I scribbled down its name, and if I could see it, the UPC. My list grew longer and longer. It was a small fortune in merchandise. Then came the most suspicious part of all. Stephanie, the woman who would rather wrestle a cayman than operate a cash register, personally walked the customer to the front of the store. "I'll get you, don't worry about the line," she said with that syrupy sweet voice. She directed him to an empty register, Register 2, and began to check him out herself. This was the moment. I jotted down the register number and the exact time on my notepad. Then I melted back into the background and went back to my work, my mind racing a mile a minute. Later that night, I casually started talking to some of the cashiers. I asked them, "Hey, does Stephanie ever ring people up?" One of them, a girl named Jess, rolled her eyes. "Ugh, only her people," she said. "And she gets super weird and territorial about it. If you try to help or even get close, she shoos you away. We all think she's just giving them her employee discount or something. But an employee discount wouldn't account for thousands of dollars in losses. It had to be more. I had my theory. I had my evidence. It was time to stop being the victim. It was time to act. The next day, I asked my coworkers who knew about her side hustle breeding business if they would be willing to back me up. They agreed instantly. They were just as fed up and tired of the pay cuts as I was. With their support bolstering my courage, I walked to the back office and knocked on Kurt's door. He told me to come in. I closed the door behind me. My hands were trembling slightly, but my voice was steady. I didn't make accusations. I didn't want to sound like a disgruntled teenager. I wanted to sound like a credible source. I simply handed him the crumpled piece of paper from my pocket. On it was the list of about 20 high-value items, the register number, and the time from the night before. "Kurt," I said calmly, "I think if you look up a transaction from Register 2 at this time last night, you might find something interesting. Maybe a very large, unauthorized discount. These are the items I would expect to find on that transaction." He looked at the list, then back at me, a puzzled expression on his face. And then, I laid it all out. Everything. The way she singled me out, the way she treated her customers, the illegal under-the-table animal sales, the suspicious checkouts, the theory that she wasn't just discounting items, but actively stealing them. I told him I didn't want to come to him with just rumors, but after what I witnessed last night, I was sure something was deeply wrong. Kurt listened intently, his expression growing more and more serious with every word. He didn't doubt me for a second. He just looked at the paper in his hand, then at me, and said, "Thank you. I'll look into this. I appreciate you bringing this to me directly." I left his office, feeling a strange mix of terror and relief. The die was cast. Now all I could do was wait. A couple of weeks went by. Nothing happened. Stephanie was her usual charming self. She continued to assign me to the filthiest tasks and throw her snide remarks my way. I started to worry. Did Kurt blow me off? Did he investigate and find nothing? Did I just put a massive target on my own back for no reason? The anxiety was eating me alive. And then, one Tuesday afternoon, I saw it. I was restocking birdseed when I saw Kurt standing near the front of the store, pretending to adjust a display, but his eyes were locked on the automatic doors. He was watching, waiting. Right on cue at 2 p.m., Stephanie breezed in for her shift, her purse slung over her shoulder, a bored look on her face. The second her foot crossed the threshold, Kurt's voice cut through the store's ambient noise. "Stephanie." "My office." "Now." The tone was flat, devoid of any warmth. It was the kind of tone that makes your stomach drop. Every employee within earshot froze. Stephanie looked confused, then annoyed. She shrugged and sauntered towards his office. What she didn't know, and what I found out later, was that Kurt wasn't alone in that office. Sitting in a chair, waiting for her, was a regional manager from corporate headquarters, and the police had already been scheduled to arrive in 30 minutes. The trap had been set. and she had just walked right into it. Here's what had happened behind the scenes. Kurt immediately pulled the transaction from the time I gave him. Just as I suspected, it was a train wreck. The receipt showed only about half of the items from my list had actually been scanned and paid for, but every single item that was on the receipt was on the list I gave him. It was the smoking gun. That one transaction was enough to greenlight a full investigation. For the next 2 weeks, corporate loss prevention had been watching her. They reviewed security footage. They tracked her transactions. And they found her pattern: the sweetheart scam. She'd take her customers shopping, fill their carts with expensive merchandise, and at the register, she'd scan a few cheap items while sliding the big-ticket products, the filters, the lights, the decorations, right into the shopping bags, completely free of charge. It was brazen. In just that 2-week observation period, they caught her giving away over $1,500 in merchandise. But that wasn't all. Armed with this knowledge, they went back and audited the department's damaged merchandise write-off logs. These are the records we kept for items that were broken and had to be thrown out, and they found that Stephanie's signature was on an absurd number of them. In the last quarter alone, she had claimed over 1,000% more in broken aquarium supplies and decorations than in any previous quarter. She wasn't just giving stuff away at the register, she was looting the stockroom and covering her tracks with fraudulent paperwork. All in all, they charged her with stealing and defrauding the company of over. The meeting in Kurt's office didn't take long. There was no room for argument. They had dates, times, video evidence, and transaction logs. It was checkmate. About 20 minutes after she went into the office, the door opened. Kurt and the regional manager walked out, followed by Stephanie. Her face, usually so smug and contemptuous, was pale and slack with shock. Her eyes were wide with disbelief, and behind her were 2 uniformed police officers. The store fell silent. Every employee, cashiers, stalkers, groomers, stopped what they were doing. About 20 of us stood there, watching in stunned silence as the officers escorted her towards the front doors. It was the ultimate walk of shame. As they passed the reptile section, my section, her head turned, her eyes scanned the crowd of gawking employees, and landed directly on me. For a split second, the world seemed to slow down. In her eyes, I saw a flash of dawning comprehension, the final puzzle piece clicking into place in her mind. She knew it was me. I held her gaze. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just gave her a single, almost imperceptible, quick wink. A flicker of rage crossed her face before the officers guided her out the automatic doors and into the waiting police car. And then, she was gone. A wave of pure, unadulterated relief washed over me. The tension I had been holding in my shoulders for over a year finally released. I was no longer the weak link. I was the one who had protected my coworkers, who had stood up to a bully, and who had brought a thief to justice. I don't know if she ever went to jail, but watching her get walked out by the police, stripped of all her power and authority in front of everyone she tormented, was more than enough for me. It's funny how things work out. A person drunk on their own petty power thinks they're untouchable. They underestimate the quiet ones, the people they step on, forgetting that even the weakest link can be the one that brings the whole rotten chain crashing down. She thought I was just some dumb kid cleaning fish tanks, but she never bothered to see that I was also watching, listening, and learning. So, what do you think? Was the wink the perfect ending? I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me about a time you saw a workplace bully get exactly what they deserved. Your stories give us all a little bit of hope. And of course, if you enjoyed watching justice get served, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss a story. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.